Welcome to the AFR Saints channel, where we provide you daily content on your favorite team, the New Orleans Saints. Do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to leave your comments below and smash that like button. Who dat? Saints above 500. Improbably in sole possession of first place of the NFC South. Whatever. Maybe Ross Jackson can make sense of it. Locked On Saints podcast on Twitter at Ross Jackson Nola. How are you, dude?
Hey, man, doing great. Thanks so much for having me on. I accept the challenge of being positive here today.
You know, man, I'm a firm believer. It's hard to win in the NFL. You never apologize for how you win in the NFL. But, man, it was hard to look at how that game finished, +5 in the turnover margin and having to hang on against Chicago. Sometimes winning masks deficiencies. Give me the positives coming out of that win, aside from, you won.
Yeah, one of the things that I liked about the New Orleans Saints offense in this game in particular was that it was the first game in which Michael Thomas and his entire career has been active and walked away with 0 catches in this game. And the New Orleans Saints still found a way to win. And Matt, you know just as well as I that if we were having this conversation back in 2020, 2019, if there was a 0-catch game by Michael Thomas, the Saints probably got blown out, right? Like they didn't have a lot. They didn't have a lot else going for them on offense, things like that, outside of Alvin Kamara, of course. But teams did a good job taking one or the other away back then. In this game, they were able to rely on Chris Olave despite the scrutiny and the sort of slump that he's been in the last month. 6 catches, just over 40 yards, but also got into the end zone on a play where Michael Thomas was doubled in the red zone. The tight ends finally getting involved in this game a little bit more. Juwan Johnson with a couple of big catches, including a touchdown catch. Foster Moreau with a big catch, things like that. So that's one of the things that I really take away from this game is that the Saints' offensive weaponry, which we've been saying all season, the Saints have so much talent. There's no reason that they should be as bad on offense as they had been to open up the year. This is a game where the talent was actually able to make up for a deficiency in not being able to get Michael Thomas involved in the game.
Okay, do you honestly believe, or I don't think you'd lie to me, but do you believe the Saints offensively have turned the corner?
I will say I don't know that they've turned the corner. I think that that's still yet to be proved. I will say that let's say they're turning the corner, Matt, right? They're okay. In the midst of taking the turn, but they got to accelerate out, right? Like that's what we're waiting to see next. We're watching these 3 games. For me, it was all about Indianapolis, Chicago, and then Minnesota. All 3 of these games, as opposed to just one of them, to prove that they had actually turned the corner. This is a team that over the course of the past 2 seasons has been kind of doing the roller coaster, win a game, lose 2 games, win a game, lose 2 games. They put together a 3-game win streak at the end of the season last year. Can they do it here in the middle of the season when it matters most? In a situation where you're going up against backup quarterbacks 3 weeks in a row, potentially 4 weeks in a row after the bye week, depending upon what happens with Atlanta. So I think that they're in the midst of proving that. I do think it's undeniable that the offense is in a better rhythm and in a better groove right now than they were over the course of that, like averaging 15.5-point stretch. But I do think they still have left some things to prove because they're still leaving a lot out on the field.
How much, Ross Jackson's with us, how much of the Saints' offensive improvement the past couple of weeks is a product of they're improving? How much of it is Indy and Chicago are 2 of the worst defenses in the NFL, and against Jacksonville, you were just playing catch-up late?
Yeah, I think the way that I look at it is each of the defenses for these past 2 weeks have struggled against the pass, but they've been pretty good run teams. And what we've watched for the New Orleans Saints, I believe going into the game, Indianapolis was top 10, and then Chicago, from a yards per carry perspective, was top in the NFL. I think that one of the things that you look at from the offensive side is their ability to be able to run the ball in the red zone and be able to kind of eclipse what a usual standard, top 10 rushing defense would end up limiting, right? And so I think that being able to move the ball between the 20s was something that the Saints have shown that they could do, but they couldn't do anything once they got into the red zones. They were struggling there. And I think that getting some of that production in the run game in the red zone helps to kind of prove that, okay, there's something new for this New Orleans Saints team that they didn't have before. So I don't know if it's necessarily improving or getting better. I think that actually just a big part of it is that they found something that works and they're not afraid to stick with it at this point. That's exactly what they should do, right? You look at some folks across the league who will say things like, oh, well, they can't just go with Taysom Hill and Alvin Kamara in the red zone every single game. Why not? Like, if they can't stop, like who says, right? Like, we saw Michael Thomas in 2019. Everyone knew the ball was going there. Did they stop? No. Were teams able to stop it? No. So until somebody shows that they could stop it, like the tush push, to keep doing it. And so I think that that's the thing that I think that the New Orleans Saints have found. I think it's something new that they found in the culling of their play calling by situations that's allowed them to be able to open up a little bit more in terms of what they could do as a scoring offense.
I'll get back to the Saints in a second, but you brought up the tush push as a random aside. Did you watch Sunday Night Football where the Eagles were downed at they were literally inches away from the goal line, and they got 2 yards on the brotherly shove. Like it is,
yeah.
It's just like a wave that just there's 22 people that just ride this wave forward for 2 yards. I am stunned at the efficiency of that play. You?
Yeah. I don't think I've ever seen anything like it. I don't think I've ever seen anything like it, to where you just know that it's kind of an automatic thing. And the other part of it that makes it so specific is that you watch other teams try to replicate it and just flat out fail.
Yeah.
Flat out fail. Like, everybody sucks at it.
The Saints yesterday.
Yeah.
Ross, they were 4th and 1. Derek Carr gets stuffed. By the way, use Taysom Hill right there. What are you doing? If you're going to run the play, fine. Use the guy that's actually strong and fast and can move forward.
I did ask Dennis Allen about that, about why they went with that call. And a big part of it was that they wanted to get the snap off before Chicago got set, but the official was standing there with the ball. They didn't get to do that. I think they should have called a timeout, regroup, kind of go out there and actually have kind of a little bit more of a plan there. But one of the reasons why they didn't use Taysom Hill in that situation is because Taysom Hill does not have a lot of experience under center. He's actually not very good in the quarterback sneak situation. They tried to do that last year, and the snap exchange got fumbled. So I think that that's probably a part of it. But I definitely would have called a timeout there, and maybe even considered taking the field goal to go up 2 scores at that point, as opposed to even trying that with Taysom Hill.
That's the punchline. You're up 7.
Yeah.
Go up 2 scores with under 8 to play. What are you doing? Anyway, okay, I'm going to get pissed off again.
You're so angry.
I am. I'm very angry. Like, I'm usually not, Ross. I'm the guy that it's like, hey, it is hard to win in the NFL. You take them however you can get them, and you never apologize. But man. No, go ahead.
You're usually only this angry when I bring up Traquan Smith.
Oh, God. Why would you do that? Why? Look, LSU loses to Bama. Now you're going to throw Traquan Smith in my... Why would you do that to me?
He's not on the team anymore. I just mentioned his name.
It is cruel and unusual that you would bring up Traquan Smith on this show. I'd gone months without having to mention that name. Nobody listen to Locked On Saints. I'm kidding. Okay. Is 2 more things. Number 1, the defense. The last 3 weeks, it's kind of been a problem, man. Real concern?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, the identity of this team has been built on its defense since 2017, probably, right? Like, that's been a big thing for them. There wasn't a 100-yard rusher in X many games. They hadn't allowed 20 points in X many games. All this kind of stuff, like all of those little narratives and things like that. But I think that there's reason to be concerned there. The thing that's good is that you see them, to go back to turning the corner. You see them turn the corner in the second half. But hey, not giving up touchdowns on the first 2 drives would probably be optimal, right? In terms of how to be able to put your offense in position to be able to win. We haven't seen a Saints offense score 30 points back-to-back since the Alvin Kamara, when he had like 75 touchdowns against the Minnesota Vikings. And then the very next week, they scored 33 points against the Carolina Panthers. That was at the end of that season. They haven't scored 30 points in successive games since then. And so when you're the defense that's got an offense like that, the defense has to be able to show up, and it's got to be able to show up early. So the slow starts are definitely concerning. The fact that they've been able to close out games, force 5 turnovers, they've got, they're tied for the NFL lead in turnovers and things like that. That's all great. But you do want to see this defense get out to faster starts and not continue to leave these open cavities for quarterbacks to be able to scramble through.
That was the COVID year.
Yes.
That you referenced, where they beat Minnesota and Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
That year they went to the playoffs. Of course, beat Chicago, lost to Tampa, although I hesitate to bring that up. Do you, if you had to call it right now, does this team go to the playoffs?
I think this team has a chance to go to the playoffs.
That's not what I asked.
No. Sorry.
No, what I asked.
Sorry.
Does this team, Ross Jackson, you're on the spot, on the record.
All right.
Does this team go to the playoffs?
Yeah. Let's say that they do.
Okay.
I think that they should. That's the thing is like the expectation should be that they do. So I'll say yes. I think that when it comes to this division, when it comes to the quarterbacks that they're facing for the rest of the season, when it comes to the schedule that's there, they have like one good opponent left on the schedule. It's the Detroit Lions, and that's it. Now, that means that the other opponent that has beaten them all season, which is themselves, that's the thing that they have to continue to, to outlast. Is can they continue to be a good team without stepping on their own toes, shooting themselves in the foot, whatever phrase you want to use there. That to me is the biggest thing. They are their own biggest opponent for the rest of the season in a very, very easy schedule in an NFL where any given Sunday, I get that, but this is a team that absolutely should be a playoff team. And so I'll say, yeah, this is a playoff team. And if they're not, there are going to be some serious conversations to be had at the end of the year in terms of why that's the case and what kind of adjustments need to be made to get them back on track for 2024.
He is Ross Jackson, Locked On Saints. Make sure you subscribe up on your favorite podcast app and follow him on Twitter at Ross Jackson Nola. Always appreciate you, man. Thanks so much for making the time.
Always a pleasure, dude. Take care, stay safe, and I'll talk to you here soon.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.